Yeah, how about that? Now are you hearing audio? No, thank you. I would have talked for the whole time and nobody would have heard me. Yeah, it helps if you unmute the microphone. Yeah, so news of the week. Got my true RC singularity in. As you can see, it's a little bit different in size. So here is the normal and here's the singularity. So that's 2.4 gigahertz. Really, really small, really compact. I like it a lot. And compared to a 5.8 gigahertz. So yeah, looking forward to that. Had a couple test flights with it this afternoon and it worked well. Good video. I'm looking forward to taking it out a little bit more distance than just around my house. I don't have a lot of space around my house to fly, so basically probably about 500 meters is about as far as I can go, but there's a lot of interference, Wi-Fi interference around here, specifically from my house. And so it performed well, and I was pretty happy with it. Yeah, so what else? What I wanted to talk to you guys about today is, number one, my views on monetization. Number two, I want to talk a little bit about recovery, quad recoveries. Had some, yeah, I had one comment on my channel where somebody asked me, he doesn't agree with me littering, basically leaving a quad where it fell. And I want to talk a little bit about that, my thoughts on that, and also I want to talk about recovery strategies. And that's actually something pretty important. So there's a variety of different recovery strategies that you can employ depending on what the situation is. And I'd like to talk about those. And then we'll get into some question and answers. So yeah, monetization. I'm not a big fan of monetization. None of my, when I can avoid it, none of my videos have monetization because mainly I think it would be hypocritical of myself. I don't use YouTube with ads. I have an ad blocker, so I block out all the ads, and all the videos I watch without ads. And that's just because the ads annoy me on YouTube. They're very intrusive, very annoying. But so when possible, I try to leave the monetization off. If you see monetization, if you see ads on some of my videos, it's because of the music I use. Basically, the copyright holder imposes ads, so they collect revenue off of my videos. That's what it is. It's not the best thing in the world, but that's what it is. So I don't monetize my videos. I don't ask you guys for money. I'm not going to set up a Patreon. I thought about it at one point, but I don't think it's fair for you guys. I mean, I know you guys enjoy my content. I enjoy doing it, and that's why I do it. I don't do it to earn money. I do it because I enjoy it. So I'm not going to ask you guys for money. I'm not going to set up a Patreon. I will tell you if I get something for free, if I get sponsored by somebody, I'm going to be pretty open to you about that. I don't recommend products that I don't really believe in. So I just give you my experiences. So I just wanted to get that clear. I'm doing this because this I enjoy it. Yeah, so second thing. Littering. I had somebody come to the channel and he basically said, on one of the videos, I think it was the video where I lost my G2, he doesn't agree with me littering, leaving the quad where it is. And I respect that. I actually understand that. And I don't feel good about leaving the quad there, not only because it's, a loss of money on my part, it's because it's something that I feel I don't feel like I should leave a trace. So if I could go and retrieve it, I would. The problem is that the actually recovering it is the real problem. And I have a lot of experience recovering quads. I've lost two that took me months to recover, and I spent an inordinate amount of time actually trying to recover them. So it's not that I just want to leave them there, but um, I I have an understanding of how much work it's going to take and what my chances of recovery are, and the risk to myself. So, for example, the G2 will probably stay where it is because it's at the top of a mountain. And if you saw the mountain on the way up, it's pretty high, it's pretty steep, there's a lot of snow. It's the terrain is generally inhospitable, so it makes recovery almost impossible in those situations without actually hiring somebody to go climb the mountain for me or with me and to recover the quad. So it's I know my limits, and that's pretty far outside my limits. So yeah, you could say, well, you shouldn't fly where you can't recover your quad. Yeah, but I'm not going to do that. The risk is there. It's fairly minimal. I feel bad. Um, Even if I flew over a lake, it's possible that I wouldn't be able to recover the quad. I've lost another quad in a lake in a national park, and that really weighed on me because I don't want to leave litter in a national park. I want to leave the park pristine for the next generation. So being able to recover it is, unfortunately, it's impossible. So it probably cost me $1,000, $2,000 to try to recover, to hire a dive team to try to recover, and they can't even guarantee that I'm going to recover the quad. So that's the issue. So that's my thoughts on littering. I don't like to do it. I don't intend to do it, but it happens. It just happens, and I feel sorry. So yeah, that's number two. Magnet on a rope for water would be okay, except for you don't know how deep the water is. You need a pretty strong magnet to actually pick up on the motors. I have a couple things. For example, let me grab here. I have an example. Grab that. Typically, I use one of these things when I fly over water. This is called the gitterback. It's a little buoy that releases on contact with the water. So it takes about 5 minutes. It releases and it shoots up to the surface. And with this, you should be able to recover the quad. Unfortunately, it only works if you have it attached to the quad. So when I hit the water, I didn't have it attached to the quad, and I regretted it instantly because this is $20. It would have saved me the quad, saved me a GoPro Sessions 5, and I would have not left my quad in the water. So yeah, it helps if you use the things that you have. But yeah, that's one of the things that I've got. I've actually got two of them that if I'm really worried that I'll attach two of them to the quad, and hopefully it will, release, one of those will release, as Hazard says, that can't get obstructed. And that's one of the dangers. I've never actually had a chance to use this, so I don't know how well it works. But yeah, so that kind of leads me into my segue. How much line? It's 100 feet. 100 feet of line, so it covers most situations. That's about 30 meters, 33 meters, somewhere in there. It's pretty decent. Let's see. So that segues into recovery. What can you do for recovery? The very basic methods that I use for recovery that I used before I started doing long distance, when I was flying out in the bush and my quad crashed, and before I had DVR. If you still have battery in the quad, you can track down your quad. You can track it down using the video feed. And I've done this a couple times. So if you have, for example, a directional antenna, it even works with an omni antenna. But basically, you stick this on your head, right? And you use that as kind of a radar. Now, it's going to pick up your quad in a long range. This has what, the 35 degrees angle. So it's going to pick up your quad, the feed from your the video feed from your quad in about 35 degrees. So how do you cut that? How do you actually find the quad in that 35 degrees? Usually I wave my hand across. You can do this with the Omni. It works very well with an Omni. You wave your hand across and you look for the interference in the video, because like I said before, 5.8 absorbs water, or is absorbed by water, so your hand will cut the video. So you can do that, wave your hand across and figure out exactly where the quad is in relation to the directional antenna, and then walk in that direction until you either find the quad or you lose video again, and you can kind of use that to track it down. And I've done that a couple times. I had an incident where my big Cinetank fell down in the snow, and it just got covered with snow in the middle of a snow field, probably, I'd say probably about a kilometer from where I was flying from. So I had to go track that down, and I did that with this antenna, and it worked. I found the quad and it was transmitting. So that's one way. Number two, you can, this is the best way, use the DVR. So if you got a DVR, that will usually help you track down where you crashed, or at least the last moments before you crash. I've used that extensively. It's a great thing to have. I'm not too happy about the Fat Shark DVR system. I always end up resetting the video or going to the next video rather than rewinding or forwarding again. So I really hate the interface for the Fat Shark DVR, but it works. Yeah. Number three would be the GPS. So if you have a TBS GPS, and a Core PNP Pro, or you can hook the TBS GPS up to the Crossfire, that will transmit the coordinates back to your Crossfire, and it will display on the Crossfire itself, on the transmitter. At least the big transmitter. The micro transmitter, you're out of luck. But the big transmitter, actually the micro transmitter, I think shows you that in the Tyrannus. So yeah, with a Tyrannus, you can actually, I think it'll display on the Tyrannus and the telemetry on the Tyrannus. So you can get the GPS coordinates from that. You can get it from the big TX. It will record it on the back, or it'll record the last known GPS coordinates, and that's really handy. So if you lose the quad, you can stick the coordinates into Google Maps, get an approximate location of the quad, and go find it, hopefully. So that's number three, I think. Number four, recovery option. Number three, I think. So yeah, that's number three. The last option that I would use is some sort of recovery device, like a locator or a drone keeper or something like that. The reason I shy away from those is my use cases. They're not very useful for my use cases. I typically have DVR before I crash, or I have the GPS before I crash. Those are handy because they're not limited by time. Both of the quads I lost, well, the one quad I lost, the X24 that I lost in the mountains, that I couldn't recover it because I couldn't get across a river. Basically, the river was too high. There was no way to cross it. So I had to leave it there. And I had to leave it there for probably 2 months before I could actually cross the river, the river fell enough that I could actually cross it and go retrieve the quad. So a lot of these drone keepers, or this locating devices, if they have internal batteries, they're not going to last that long. Typically a couple days, a week, maybe a month, but more than a month, it's highly unlikely. So that's why I kind of shy away from this. A lot of the places I fly is not useful. It's just dead weight on the quad. And if I'm doing really long range, dead weight is bad. So those are my thoughts on monetization. Those are my thoughts on littering and recovery. Now, so do you guys have any questions? Yeah, let me check what you guys have been chatting about. Yes, trust in your gear. Crashing is not an option. Yeah, basically that's my philosophy. I do everything I can to try to avoid crashing. That's simple. How does it save the last known location of the LiPo ejects? Basically, when the LiPo ejects, the crossfire goes into a failsafe. So when it goes into a failsafe, it actually records that GPS location on the back. It just records that as the last known GPS location, leaves it there, and then you can take a picture of it with your quad, or take a picture of it with your phone, something like that. Write the coordinates down, whatever. So that's how it would work. The diversity receiver is nice because it's got a little battery in there. Probably lasts about a day, 24 hours, somewhere around there. So it gives you a little bit more time to recover. It's heavier. That's nice. High vis reflective tape on my quad and gone out at night. That's a good idea. That's actually a really good idea. Probably in the mountains, not so much fun. But in some cases, yeah, that's actually a great idea. Recuperar en una laguna con imán se puede. I'm not sure I did. I've never tried it. I'd like to try it. It's worth a shot. Conformal coating. I don't use conformal coating normally. Conformal coating is really only useful in a couple circumstances. It only works for the big crossfire. No, this only. Let me get back to that. Yeah, conformal coating only works in a couple circumstances. In salt water, it's really important. So if you're flying over salt water and you don't want to have your quad completely destroyed, all the electronics destroyed, conformal coating is great. Conformal coating will give you a little bit more protection on the quad. What really kills electronics in water is the transfer of electrons, transfer of electricity. Deionized water, pure water, distilled water doesn't have a lot of ions in it, doesn't have a lot of particles in it, so it doesn't transmit electricity very well. It's actually a pretty good insulator. Fresh water, that's the same thing. Once you start getting minerals and salt in the water, then it becomes actually quite dangerous for the quad. So that's one of the reasons I don't worry too much about conformal coating. In the snow, it's not usually not too bad. I've crashed many times in the snow with my quads, and they're still alive. So that's conformal coating. Does it only work for the big crossfire? No, it will actually work for the small crossfire as well. The micro TX. believe, and don't quote me on this, but Stephen Price has hooked up his GPS and is recording off of his Tyrannus. So he's got basically his Tyrannus set to log the GPS coordinates from his Micro TX. So I believe that will work. That's my assumption. I'm not too sure. I've got the big one. So I just worry. I just leave it on the big one. I probably should log it on the Tyrannus, but yeah, I'm lazy. Failsafe further out and from the FC getting with. That's a possibility. It's not. If you get rain showers, if you get lots of rain, yeah, it could fail safe. I've never encountered it because basically when I fly, I don't fly in the rain. The nice thing about Chile is that for half of the year, it's just sunny. It's just sunny and warm, and I don't worry about it. So. Do I fly fixed wings? Not yet. I'm working on that. I've got a mini drac that I'm building out, taking my time building out. Some people might say that I'm taking too much time building it out. But yeah, I've got a mini drac that I'm building out, and that will eventually find its way up to the mountains. The only problem with the wings, the only thing that I don't like about the wings is they're typically less stable. So the video's not quite as nice. You get a lot of bobbing and weaving and wobbling, and so you really have to work to get it stable. It's only really useful if there's not a lot of wind, whereas a quad, it can tolerate a fair amount of wind before the video becomes unusable. So yeah, I do have plans for fixed wing, but how much, that depends on the weather conditions and how well I have it tuned. My mini drac actually has a Pix Falcon in it, so it will be fly-by-wire. So hopefully that will help with the stabilization. Nurk, hey, how you doing, man? Worst injury. Oh boy. Yeah, I've got I have run into poison ivy. That was one of the things that I really didn't enjoy. I hadn't realized that Chile had its own species of poison ivy like plants, and so I was out in the middle of nowhere, actually searching for a quad that I lost, and I came back. And a couple days later, I start itching, and I'm like itching all over my arms. And I take a look, and I'm like, man, I think they got bit by something. And then a couple days later, I realized, no, I say, oh, that looks like poison ivy. And then I started researching, and I realized, yeah, Chile has its own version of poison ivy. So, yeah, had poison ivy. I've sprained my ankle. That was down in Patagonia. So, waded through jungle, Patagonian rainforest for 5 hours trying to get down from a mountain because I was stupid and didn't go down the trail. I decided I wanted to take my own way down, and that was bad. So yeah, yeah, I ended up spraining my ankle pretty bad, and that's about the worst injury that I've had. Yes, definitely come to Chile. Chile is awesome. There's new landscapes around every corner. I'm constantly looking on Google Earth trying to figure out where do I want to go next. Where do I want to try to fly next? So mountains, plains, desert, rainforest, glaciers, you name it, we've got it. So that's why I like That's why I like living here. Patagonia is definitely an experience. I actually didn't go that far down into Patagonia. I got um, maybe about a quarter of the way down. Just basically didn't have the time to go too much farther, and I really wanted to fly some of the places that I had seen. So I didn't explore too much, but I'd like to explore more. I'd love to get on a sailboat and sail around down there. I think that would be awesome. Uh, I'd love to just spend, I don't know, most of the summer down there flying. That would be incredible. Yes, Switzerland. I want to come to Switzerland. I want to go to Norway. The fjords of Norway really call my attention. Um, I've got a couple other things that I want to do. I want to go to Antarctica and fly. I think that would be epic. The question is how to do that and how to do that fairly cheaply. I've been investigating, and um, it's about $10,000 for a trip to Antarctica on a boat, and I'm not sure I can swing that anytime soon, unfortunately. But that's on my list of things to do. I've got a couple other secret projects. If I could, yeah, get a regime change in a South American country, I could actually do that. But sailboats are awesome. GoFundMe, yeah, that would be awesome. Not sure anybody would pay for me to do that, but hey, it's worth a while. Thank you, Tom. We'll see you. So yeah, what else do you guys want to know? What else can I talk about? Canoeing. I actually bought a kayak. Maybe you've seen it. I bought a little, bought a foldable kayak. Longest FPV round trip in terms of the trip itself, or in terms of the actual flight. In terms of the round trip itself, like actually the voyage, going for a FPV road trip, I think the longest one was probably Patagonia. That was somewhere around 2,500 kilometers, somewhere around there. The longest distance I've traveled on a mini quad was probably about 9 kilometers, somewhere around there. Distance traveled in flight, yeah, 9 kilometers, somewhere around there. That's what I have recorded. I've probably flown more, but yeah, I've probably flown more than 9 kilometers, but I don't have the GPS, so I can't say exactly how much. What brands of batteries do I prefer? I prefer brands of batteries that I can get. So that's pretty limited. With international shipping rules for batteries, it's I usually use the Hobby King graphene. For the longer flights, I use Zippy Compact. Or Zippy Flight Max. That's what I've got here. That I use a lot for the longer flights on the G2. That's 5,000 milliamps, 20C, and it weighs 430 grams with the XT60 connector. So it's pretty light, comparatively speaking, and it gives me lots of flight time. And smaller ones, the smaller batteries, I use the graphenes, and I have a couple Thunder Power Adrenalines that I picked up when I went to the States to pick up the kayak. Chun chun chun. What are my daylight hours? Change much in the seasons. My daylight hours are typically we have about 14 hours of daylight during the summer and probably about 8 hours of daylight in the winter. So not too much change. My English is very US. Yes, I am estadounidense, as they say in Chile. I'm from the United States, an American citizen. Uh, I came to live here because I met my wife while I was doing my doctorate in England, and she happens to be Chilean. So, you probably can put two and two together, and yeah, so I'm here. And now I'm working I teach at a local university, computer science mainly, but um, I am in charge of the aerial robotics lab of the university. So it's kind of interesting. Yeah. Hey, Claudio, how you doing? ¿Cómo estás? What about use of 4S and 5S, long range and high low kV motors? I think that's interesting. I just recently, Mike Stevens posted in Long Range Hooligans, the Long Range Hooligans group in Facebook. He posted a flight where he flew the same quad with 4S and 5S. So, and he had the DVR, he had the TBS, probably Vision, FP Vision, and a GPS on it. So I was able to take a look at that and look at this distance he traveled according to the OSD and the milliamp hours used, and did some calculation, and it turned out that the 5S is slightly less efficient than the 4S in terms of the same milliamp hour batteries. So basically he had the 5S was a little bit heavier, the 4S was a little bit lighter, so it wasn't really an apples to apples comparison, but the probably max distance on 4S was, I think I calculated to be about 3.9 miles, and on 5S was about 3.6 miles. So on the same quad, you're not necessarily looking at more efficiency on 5S. Higher kV motors, I'm not really sure. I'm going to do some testing here pretty soon to find that out. I have some special stuff coming next week that hopefully will allow me to test a lot of this stuff. Favorite video of all time and favorite of your videos of all time. Ooh, what was a video that got you to start flying? The one that sticks out in my head was the video from Juice flying around his house. So when I started flying FPV, well, when I started doing the drone thing, I was basically doing something for a student. He had to use a drone for a project, so I had to build him a drone, and I had never done that before. So I started researching. This was back in 2013. So I started researching online. And, when you're researching online, looking at YouTube videos, eventually you're going to find something with FPV. So I saw that video from Juice, and that really impressed me. I was like, oh wow, that's awesome. So the proximity him flying around his house and through his house blew me away. So I said I have to do that. And then of course the TBS videos. I think my favorite video of all time FPV would probably be TBS Trapeze, the Formation Proximity 2. I think that's my favorite one. That shows one of his wings being taken down by eagle. So it's that one. I think it's the Formation Proximity 2. And that just is my favorite of pretty much all time. I love the music. I love how the editing is. I love the scenery. I just love the flights. So that's probably it. Um, yes, yeah. 2013 was definitely before the Racing One crash session. That came out in early 2014, actually 2015, I think, because I built my QAV 250 in June of 2014. That's my first FPV video with the first real FPV video was that. I did a couple of FPV videos before that with a larger quad. They're not actually published on my channel, but they're actually there. So I probably started FPV around March of 2014, somewhere around there. Yeah, well, you've started in 2015, but you've got a hell of a lot more followers than I do. I'm just here. I don't promote myself too much. I don't like doing that too much, but um, I enjoy doing what I do. So yeah, blackout drunk, scratching cars and stuff. Yeah, Nashim. Yeah, so my first flight with my quad, with my first quad, um, I actually ended up scratching the dean's car. So I had, for some reason, I changed something in multi-wii and reversed the yaw. So the quad took off and just started yawing uncontrollably and just fell and yeah, ended up scratching the dean's car. So yeah, thanks for stopping by, Nurk. Glad to have you and glad you enjoyed this. Props for long range. 7-inch. I haven't found a 7-inch prop that I like. I'd like to try the Master Air Screw 7x4x3. I think that might be interesting to try. Um, I'm hopeful that they'll come out with something. Um, Hopefully HQ will come out with something interesting. I just picked up some 6x3x3s from HQ, like 20 of them. So we'll see how those are. How many KVs do you recommend for a long range? Or is it not so important? It depends on what kind of long range you want to do, Claudio. If you want to do like really long range stuff, then you're going to want low KV, large props, uh, big batteries, and that'll get you. Well, my G2 could probably fly for probably around 16 kilometers, 17 kilometers, somewhere around there. So that's really long range. If you want something medium range, here in Chile, most of the mountains are reachable within 2-3 kilometers. So that's not so important. You can do that with a 5-inch. You can do that with the 6-inch. I prefer 6-inch just to have a little bit more, wiggle room in the battery. And typically I use a 1800 milliamp hour battery. My 6-inch quad has 220 kV, 220, 2200 kV motors, the F80s, and they're not very efficient, but they'll still get me 2 kilometers without a problem. So yeah, right. If you guys don't have too many more questions, I think I'm going to end this here. I like to keep these kind of short. Pretty soon we'll have some more content. I'm planning on going up to the mountains on Monday or Tuesday this week. We've got the days off at university, so hopefully we'll get some long range flying in and give you guys what you want. DJI NASA? No, never used it. Think that's a limitation of the flight controller, but I can't be sure. Um, the Pix Falcon, I actually have similar problems with the Pix Falcon on quads, at least small quads. So it might be just something related to those type of flight controllers. They're not really optimized for um, small quads. Right. Okay. I'm going to head out. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will talk to you guys maybe next week. See you.